And yeah, if we can ask people to kind of go round, I'll let you know who the next person is who should introduce themselves. I'll start. So I'm Lillian Joy at University of York, and Fiona McNeil kind of started this group. She volunteered to the JISC accessibility community to run a maths interest group. So I joined as a member, but she's now left. So Jenny and I kind of helped to run this now. So if I can ask Christian to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christian Lawson-Perfect. I work in the e-learning unit in the School of Maths, Stats and Physics at Newcastle University. I'm the developer of the numbers assessment system, and probably now I've taken over Chiron, the notes thing as well. And I have a particular interest in accessibility.
Okay, brilliant. I hope you could all hear that, or at least watch the transcript. Rebecca.
Hi, I'm actually one of Lillian's interns at the University of York. So I study computer science, but I've kind of been doing accessibility internships on and off for I think 4 years now. This is my cat Nova, who's decided she wants to sit on me for this meeting. But yeah, so I think at the moment I'm kind of working with creating guidance for R Markdown to give to staff to help them kind of get started with that.
Thank you. And Cordelia?
Hello, I'm another intern. I'm currently doing a maths PhD. Yeah, I'm investigating various LaTeX stuff mainly at the moment. Yeah.
Crucially, Cordelia is also a transcriber for our blind math student. Vital skills. Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Cliff at the University of Bath. I started off as a transcriber for a maths student, so I recognise that skill. It's been very key. I head up the Mathematics Resources Centre at the University of Bath, and we provide mathematics support to any student on any degree with any maths or any statistics, which is kind of a big ask. But my background is also as a disability practitioner as well as mathematician, so a little bit unusual. And I've had an interest for many, many years on how we can create accessible mathematical and scientific content. And more importantly, get staff doing that as kind of a matter of course, which requires them to have access to software and processes that support them.
Well put, brilliant. Gavin?
Hi, my name is Gavin Henrik. I'm one of the co-founders of Brickfield Education Labs. We make one of the Moodle accessibility toolkits, which sort of sits in Moodle. Our interest is obviously around mathematics, is learning to understand what more we can do within our toolkit to do more than Moodle supports itself. So I'm constantly in a learning mode.
Thank you, Gavin. Luke?
I'm Luke Sell. I'm a learning designer from the University of Southampton, and I primarily focused on raising digital accessibility across the board. But that's taking quite a strong focus into maths and STEM content, because if you can crack that, you can crack just about anything.
Brilliant. Constantina?
So, hello, I'm Konstantina Zerva. I work at the University of Edinburgh, the School of Mathematics, and I mainly create math assessment using Stack. And yeah, that's my first meeting, so I know nothing about the project.
You're very welcome. Jill?
Hello, I'm Jill Shacklock from the University of Brighton, and I strive, like I'm sure like the rest of you, to raise awareness of accessibility amongst our colleagues. And maths has always been a really sticky one because it's quite complicated. They all have traditionally used different tools to present their information like LaTeX, and there's never been an easy solution, so they've tried to ignore us.
And Jenny?
Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Fantastic. This is the problem with being on campus. A lot of things don't work quite the same here. Yeah, so I'm digital learning advisor and I work with Faculty of Science, which includes maths, physics, chemistry, a lot of subjects who struggle with digital accessibility. I used to be a maths teacher, so I'm quite interested in general in the maths accessibility things. So I'm trying to work across our faculty and also across the university a bit to do guidance, and we have a little working group that I look after looking at maths accessibility.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody. Great to have some new members, some very well-established people who know more about accessibility than those of us who have been coming to this group for a bit. So we I think can make some really significant progress now. So I'm just going to run through the updates on actions. And I have invited Stack and R contacts to join us. So that's Constantina and Emma. And of course, we have Jim Tyson, who's not here with us today, and Ben Watson, but they will ultimately join us in future. Jill, you were going to see if there was a relevant accessible maths JISC mail list, and Emma might know more about this as well with her Sigma hat on.
Okay, so I looked in two areas. One, I looked at just mailing lists, and there are a handful of maths ones. None of them particularly say accessibility. Obviously, I can't find out what they discuss without joining them. But there is a maths study skills, which is for people developing mathematics study skills resources. So I thought if we were looking for like a target audience that we wanted to say to give information to, that seemed to be the most relevant one on a just mailing list. There are others, but that one stood out. And then the other area I looked was in Teams, because probably most of you know there's a JISC accessibility team. I was just looking to see what the subgroups or the channels in there were, and there's a STEM one. So I thought that's perhaps another target, the STEM area in that team, to open up discussions.
Brilliant. And Emma, I wonder how active is the Sigma accessibility group?
Not very. So it came out of Access MSOR WG, which was the MSOR network working group for mathematics accessibility. That was HEA. HEA was then defunded, or at least the subject centres were. And Sigma had a special interest group, which at that time was funded and isn't now. It has a little bit, tiny amount of funding left, which hasn't been spent. The two were amalgamated, and since that point of there's not much funding, it's pretty much died down to nothing on the mailing list. That's not to say there's absolutely nothing going on, but there's literally two of us trying to finish off a task, which is some very short guides for math support tutors. So it's very, very specific to our particular network. So these are PhD students working in a math support drop-in, so it's very specific. So it's not really the kind of thing you're looking at. There are people on that mailing list, they just don't say very much. At the moment, we don't have an interest in trying to reawaken it unless we can get some additional leadership and movement in the area, which might come from Sigma in the maths anxiety area more than anything else, and dyscalculia. So it's probably, again, a different area. I believe that there was a mailing list that was discussing accessibility of e-assessment, which Christian might know about.
Yeah,
and
a vague
there
bell
are,
ringing.
and there is some mailing lists which are cited in the US, which I sit on, but that's all.
Okay, thanks for that. I think that's quite useful to give us some context that this group is kind of coming together purely because my personal experience, and I think it's been the experience of quite a few other people like Luke and Jill as well, and Jenny, we look on the web and we see specific things for specific approaches, but nothing that brings it all together. And it seems timely that maybe this group might have some energy to go forward with that collation. And I think, with Fiona having set up the GitHub, one thing we'll do before we finish today is to ensure that everyone who needs access to the GitHub has access to the GitHub, so you can edit, add yourself as contributors, and help us with the glossary, but also update your university resources. I think I've already added one of Emma's presentations, which says it better than anything else, kind of thing. But we'd appreciate any sharing from any university, really. So that's what we'll do. Thank you very much for that update, and thanks for all that work, Jill. I was going to arrange a meeting with Mobius, but actually I think we have plenty to do looking at numbers and stack before we even go to any of that kind of commercial tools. So until we've had a good look at chi-run demonstrations and stack demonstrations, I think we'll revisit things like Mobius at a later date. Okay, are we happy with that? I'm going to get some nods maybe. Yeah, okay, thumbs up from Luke and nods from others. Okay, great. I was going to contact Phil Anthony. It was an idea I think we had last meeting about just doing our first webinar, just getting this group out there so that people knew we were working and could contribute. And serendipitously, I spoke to Laura and Kelly about changing the group's name. So two things there. So in terms of the webinar, we've now been given the slot on the 1st of June. Now, for those who have just joined new, this might come as a what? That's a bit soon. We'll come on to that. It's on the agenda. And in terms of the group name, because it always used to be called JISC AC Leadership something subgroup maths, and it was just too much of a mouthful. And I always thought AC stand for Accessibility Clinic, but it's Accessibility Community Drop-in Clinic. So you see where it's all kind of, so anyway, it's now JISC Accessibility Community, which maybe we could shorten to JAC. I don't know, or maybe JISC would not be happy with us shortening the JISC part, but JISC AC Maths Working Group is what I hope it says on the tin. I hope that explains what it is. That's what I've kind of updated the GitHub to, but again, the GitHub is owned by us all. So if anyone's got any comments about the group name, feel free to type in the Google Doc. I think you should all have access to type in that. I think anyone on the internet can edit. So you should be able to type in there if you have any comments at all whatsoever. So this JISC Accessibility Drop-in Clinic is a chance for us to tell other people who are interested in accessibility, digital accessibility, that this group exists, and maybe make them curious to find out about how accessible maths is being promoted or done at their organization. It could be that nothing's happening. It could be that one person is sitting in their staff room doing something, but not broadcasting it. I think Emma will agree a lot of that happens in HE. So when I started looking into it, it was exactly like that. I had one or two members of staff who had bothered to kind of make sure that the PDFs came out with headings and things were tagged properly. But on the whole, people didn't know what they were doing. And then we have people who might be really quite expert at creating digital maths. And I would put yourself, Christian, and maybe Constantina in that group. But maybe in terms of what makes an accessible document, you know, some groups or some people would like a bit more confidence on that aspect of it. or putting in touch with learners who might be able to test things out. And then the kind of groups of people that people tend not to think about within the university are the transcribers, which is why I was really pleased to connect with Cordelia and Emma. With your experience, that's a real advantage. So yeah, the idea is to create and draw together as many of the resources that support all those different groups of people as possible. So including students. And Emma, I'm really pleased that you've mentioned the GTAs that support students, because they're another subgroup that need information provided for them that's directed to their specific use case, really. And we've got the same, we've got GTAs that have been involved in our university projects before. So that's the plan for the JISC webinar on the 1st of June. And how I've kind of thought about it. So I'll just add the document into the chat as well to make it easier. Oh yeah, thanks Emma for mentioning that it's useful to have the backing of JISC, isn't it, to make it clear that it's not just a group of people who like to eat cake and talk about maths getting together and trying to make an impact. So yes, I think we appreciate having the JISC in there. It's really helpful. So if we can look at the drop-in clinic, and I might share screen at this point to make it easier to kind of all kind of look at the same cells, if you like. So it's coming up. So I've kind of volunteered ourselves as one of the slots. And in terms of what we say, Cordelia, I haven't yet committed us to specifics, and I hope you can make the 1st of June. And I wondered if other people would be willing to just, you know, I mean, I don't mind doing an introduction. You know, Jill and myself could do the introduction. Jill, what do you think?
Sorry, I wasn't flabbergasted. I was trying to find the unmute button. Yes, that's fine. What the date? I need to check the date. Isn't that a bank holiday? Isn't that the Queen's birthday or?
No, that's the day after. I think 2nd and 3rd are the holidays.
Okay.
So the 1st of June. In fact, it would be nice if Jenny and Jill could do that introduction.
I'm not here, sorry.
Oh yes, Jenny said she wasn't here.
I can potentially volunteer other people from Sheffield who might be able to come along to do one of the slots if you wanted, if you get stuck, but I'm not around that day, sorry.
Okay. But Jill, would you be happy to do a double act with me?
Yes, of course.
In terms of introducing the group. And then, you know, we're happy to offer a slot, 10 minutes. We don't have to be slot number 1, but I'm happy. Emma, would you, I know, like I say, it's your first meeting, but you've actually been working, you're almost like the most famous name we know in accessible maths. Oh, I can't, I'm not sure what's happened. You're unmuted, but.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
The timing isn't great, I have to say. I'm partially running not just my part of the department, but the whole rest of the skills centre at the moment.
Right.
We don't have a head or deputy head.
Yeah.
So things aren't great. And the 1st of June is really close. So it kind of depends what you're asking of me, and also what time of day on the 1st of June this is.
Yeah, true. It's, I think 12:30 to 1:30 is the standard accessibility drop-in clinic.
Okay, I mean, I am free only on that time in that day, so ooh. I guess you've got lucky there. In terms of preparing anything, though, it would be very difficult. So what would you be looking for?
I think it's worth just recycling. In fact, I mean, I would move my slot further down if you want to do almost like the background in why it's been hard to make maths accessible.
So you mentioned a particular talk of mine, I think, that summarized it. Is that the tell?
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Let me go to our GitHub and show you what I've stolen from you
Sure.
before. It's linked in the accessibility resources by university. And it's number 1, actually. So, you know, I think if we went into, we could do R Markdown. I've got lecturers who might be able to do that, but
Not in a 10-minute introduction.
not in the introduction, exactly. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
you've got your retrofitting to inclusive. I wondered if
there's various lengths of that. I can certainly, I think, is that the short one? I hope it's the short one.
It might be the long one, but maybe pick slides 1, 5, and 10 or something.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, I can redo something from the past. That's fine. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm strong arming people, but
I feel like I'm coming into this with absolutely no background of where you've come, where you've been as a group, and anything. So that's why I'm hesitant, and also the timing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of jumped straight in, haven't I? So in our, let me go back to here. So in our GitHub site. Obviously, I'm not expecting people to kind of read all out, whether you go to the maths glossary or to the resources. I mean, this structure was set up by Fiona, and I'm not a GitHub user, so I'm struggling a little bit to work things out, but I couldn't easily find meeting stories before, so I've just added them everywhere that I could find. So generally, the meeting stories kind of give you the backstory if you bothered to go all the way to the beginning, but don't worry about that. At the beginning, there was just maybe about 5 of us, Jill, that got together, and we all literally just went, we don't know what we're doing. Let's see what we all don't know about what we're doing. And that's where we started. Now, I'd already created quite a large kind of repository guide of how we do accessible maths at the University of York. And
in those meetings, people kept talking about things I'd never heard of. So I was just like scratching my head. So I said, can we have a glossary? So we started a glossary, which we hope to maintain and increase with anything to do with maths accessibility, all the various tools people are using.
Yeah, and again, that was the thing with some of us coming in not having researched it. That was useful insight that, oh, we need a maths glossary. I thought that was, you know, so the things that we've done, it's literally just pulled in from who's curious about what are you struggling with right now? And they become actions, and then we try and do some of that.
And the people we're presenting to, I'm really sorry, who are they?
Okay, no, absolutely, good point. So the JISC accessibility community is quite a large community. I'll kind of give you an insight.
I am a member of that.
Yeah, on the teams.
It occasionally sends me messages, and I
That's
occasionally
right.
read things, and that's about it. Okay,
Yeah.
and is it just the wider membership of that?
Yes, it is. It is. So yeah, so it's these people really, and so they sometimes have topics like the last one was about updating your accessibility statement. They've had things like how you would make your PDFs more accessible. So it's a whole range of topics. So as the maths subgroup for this community, we've been running for maybe a year, just under a year. And so it's kind of, here's where we've got to. We've set up a GitHub site. We've got a glossary. We've got some resources from various universities. So we're starting to pull together in one place the kind of resources that support the UK community, because there is quite a lot in the US, but it's an endless, you could just be clicking on links forever if you go researching. So that sense of, I think ultimately we'd like to get to the point where we can have a one-stop shop, and maybe information for those just starting out,
Mhm.
information for those who have done some research already and would like to contribute, and information for us lot, what else shall we do? What can we
Okay.
contribute back to the community? So all
Then-
volunteers and unfunded, I'm afraid.
Yes, I'm happy to reuse one of my past talks, just as long as no one's going to ask me any questions about where you've been and where you're planning to go to, because it sounds like I won't really know by that point.
Okay. We're very grateful for that. Thank you. That's great. So is anyone else here willing to take a slot? Luke?
Yes, I've been exploring tagging in LaTeX because there's been some recent developments in that, which are quite exciting. It's not the silver bullet we're all hoping for, but paragraph tagging is fairly accurate now. And if that can work, then you can start tagging headings, and once you're tagging headings, you can start tagging math content, and once we're there, then hopefully. But it might be more useful for people authoring in LaTeX outside of maths.
And can you guarantee that even, the majority of our audience won't be LaTeX users? So
That's fine. We can
brilliant,
make it easy for it.
brilliant. Slot 4, I feel like something from either Numbers or Stack would be lovely. I don't know. Or even
Sorry,
Moodle.
I'm already got a meeting at that time.
Okay.
So I have a meeting, actually I have a workshop that finishes at 1 at that day. So I could probably say something towards the end, if that's possible.
Okay. Yeah. Let me think. 1:30. Yeah. So I think by the time we get to slot 4, it'll be like 1:05, if not
Okay.
later.
Yes, I could probably get out of the workshop when it's online, okay?
Oh, that's brilliant.
I don't know, we have a festival of digital skills that week in my university.
Oh, right.
Mama. It's for me.
And then I sign up for various workshops to attend, and that was about blogging and professional development. So I don't know, maybe it's interesting.
Okay, so you'll be able to kind of maybe at least demonstrate Stack and how that's being used.
Okay,
And
so does it mean also to see what is behind the screen, like how you create a Stack question?
yeah, why not? I think just a flavor of digital
flavor,
math.
okay.
Yeah.
That will be very quick flavor, 10 minutes.
Okay. No problem. It is just a 10-minute slot, and you don't have to use your entire 10-minute slot. Don't worry about filling it.
No, I'm thinking just tell people about Stack, just a very quick, it will take more.
It is. I think
Isn't it just about raising awareness of
is.
the areas people are working in, and then
Yeah,
people might want to follow up? Or
that's right. So obviously with 4 slots, that's not even enough to explain all that we're doing. But what I thought would be nice then is that I'll create a collaborative Google Doc, one that anybody can edit. And we try and get everybody there to kind of just state whether they know nothing at all about anybody at the university doing anything to do with maths, or they know someone and they think they're doing X, or they're aware of a resource and they can copy and paste the link, because that gives us a picture of the kind of things that we need to build resources for. What's your current question about accessible maths, and we go from there. So I thought it's quite a nice state of the nation, pulse of the nation kind of activity.
what about Lillian? What about something like Padlet for people to feed into the Padlet tool? Could
use a Padlet.
It's quite hard to know where to start in a document, isn't it?
Oh, that's why I use, I tend to use a table, and people can just stick their cursor in a row and know that they're not going to be disturbed by anyone else. But yeah, we could use a Padlet.
Well, I would suggest that since you're using Google as it is, because Padlet does have embedded real-time trackers, so it's a privacy issue using Padlet. I would suggest using Google Slides rather than using Google Doc, because then people can collaborate and put stuff in on separate slides, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like Padlet in the fact that people can have their own space.
Yeah.
But slides is a nice way to collaborate like that if you didn't want to do it at a table.
Yeah.
If this is on Zoom and you've got only 5 minutes, would it not make more sense just to ask people to put things in the chat?
In the chat and then harvest it. Okay. I would have to rely on JISC to send me the chat. Yeah. And,
well, they can have any hosts allowed to download chat anyway. So
depends on whether they've turned it on this.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're right, Christian, it's the lowest technologies just to stay on the webinar tool, get everybody to kind of add to the chat, and then we'll mine the chat for that information later. Thank you, Christian, for that. So some example questions that I thought we could just kind of leave it up there and let people answer one question, whichever question speaks to them the most. And then a Q&A, which will rely on all those attending to do some, to kind of reply. So sometimes people will be asking us about this group. They may want to know, oh, can we join? So other universities might be keen to join the group. And then others might have an actual question about maths, in which case, see activity above and type it in the chat, because we can't always answer. There's sometimes no straight answer, is there? I think we found out some things are a little bit more complex. Depends on lots of things. And so, yeah, thank you very much, volunteers. And if you're happy to kind of just prep as you know, a 10-minute slot, then I expect this is the way we will run the activity on the day. But any other feedback and comments, please feel free to let me know.
Sorry, Lillian, I have no idea how to put my hand up in Zoom.
That's
Can I
fine.
just, if there is even such a thing. Just looking at the retrofitting slides and reminding myself what those were, I wonder if it's more useful to do a short form of the talk I gave at something called Telmo, which is more kind of accessible maths e-resources. Why is it important? What do you need to do? How do you get started? So the retrofitting talk is aimed more at convincing mathematicians who are very tied to LaTeX that they are creating in an ongoing fashion a problem. I can kind of bring the retrofitting issue in, but I wonder if it might be more suitable for an audience such as the one you described, not to be so focused on being a mathematician and being a LaTeX user.
Brilliant. Would you be all right if I moved you up to the first slot?
If you want, I mean, please have a look at the Telmo talk, or I don't know if anyone was at Telmo, but to me, that's because it doesn't just talk about LaTeX, it is also about Word and the tools that are already there, some very simple kind of like, if you do this, then that does work. And that might just be a better starting point for people. Yeah. Does that make more sense?
Absolutely. I think my mic, is my mic gone?
No,
I can still hear you.
Yeah,
Okay. I think it's gone through the laptop for whatever
your camera's
reason.
gone, but your mic is still working.
I think my USB's decided to fail. One of my USB devices has decided to fail.
Technology, hey? It's there to cause us hassle.
Okay, Telmo talk. Thank you. So is there a link to your Telmo talk? Well, we don't need the link right now.
I think I just put it somewhere.
It's in the chat.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's really much appreciated.
We're not a Zoom using institution, so I'm really lost.
Yeah, it's like me in Teams. Absolutely understand it. So yeah, I'll probably move you up after this in the schedule. It makes sense. And like I say, you've got the most experience really out of all of us.
Yeah, the Talmo talk was aimed at mathematicians, but it's really quite more general than that. And so I can cut it down easily, and it just focuses people's attention on what the thing is, some easy fixes, and what other resources I've previously put out there.
Brilliant, fabulous, much appreciated. Right, so having run the 1st of June idea past everybody, we're on to kind of updates from members. I wonder, Emma, or if anyone else has come across MathPix before. I think Jenny, you said you tried it 2 years ago and it wasn't up to much then.
That was my experience, and I haven't looked at it since.
Okay. And okay, and Cordelia, you ran some things past MathPix recently. What's your impression at the moment?
It's the first thing I've seen that can take. It's very good on one hand, and does do things I've not seen other things do, but it also isn't perfect. It likes putting in weird headings and messes up tables and footnotes and weird things. So it's the best of that kind of group of tools that I've seen, but it's still not very good.
Okay, right. So that's I think that's the key thing, isn't it? That if we want to, I think that is the state of STEM accessibility at the minute. You know, everything's in little bits and pieces, and some things work so far and then it falls over. And that's why this group, that's why it's so hard as well to get started with math accessibility. Yes, Emma's found the hands up button.
I knew there was one somewhere. Has anyone compared it to Empty Reader?
Yeah, that one, something like that, right? Something like that.
So I just wondered if MathPix does anything better than Empty. Yeah.
Not compared it. In fact, I think because we're Equasio users at York, we never really kind of bothered with anything else because it was good enough. But then obviously what's really nice is this idea that you can suck in a PDF and have the kind of markdown version, imperfect as it is. But yeah, that's something we can take away to try out, I guess, this Empty
Reader. So it was the I mean, I don't know where MathPix has got to, but Empty Reader was certainly the most powerful thing which existed going back 15 years, and they're still working on it. And we were using it with cited checkers afterwards to convert PDF mathematical documents, scientific documents into a LaTeX-like format. Some students working at kind of PhD level were happy to kind of use it themselves with content they vaguely knew about, because they could kind of work out what some of its errors would be, but human checkers were still needed even for that content. But that was certainly the best that existed back then, and I would be surprised if anything's overtaken it yet.
I'd be interested if their outputs are more than just LaTeX now. I think the beauty of MathPix is the markdown puts it nearer to a format that, because quite often you, as a transcriber, you can ask a lecturer for the LaTeX in the first place.
Yeah, we weren't using it for transcription. We were using it for PhD students who needed to access research papers. We couldn't get the research paper from the original author.
Yes. Oh, that's a good idea. Yes, absolutely. So Luke's asking, does MathPix still have a pay-per transformation? So their free version allows up to, so we were only looking at the PDF, upload your PDF. We weren't looking at the screenshot part of it. And I don't know, 100 pages or something like that. And the next price plan along is $4 a month. And then obviously you've got organizational versions. So the organizational one does get to the point where it's per transformation. You know, you get so many, and then you pay over and above that. So Microsoft Maths Editor or Microsoft Math, I don't know. We've not discussed. We just know that the equation editor in Word is not accessible. But I'm not sure about math.microsoft.com. Christian?
Yeah, sorry, I just put that in. I had a vague memory that Microsoft had an app that will recognize handwritten maths, but it doesn't look like it's set up for producing an output document. It's more aimed at producing step-by-step solutions to things, like just as a calculator.
Yeah, it looks like it's okay for, like you say, almost like primary school supporting maths, which, to be fair, none of the tools we've tested have been particular. I mean, like Equatio doesn't do, what was it I tried the other day? It was some calculus. It was like, couldn't tell me what the symbol was, and I didn't know what the symbol was, so it was quite hard to try and find what the symbol was. So I had to use the LaTeX to find it in the end. But at least with the equation, the screenshot reader, it converted it into LaTeX, which I could then go searching the web for what it meant. So
yeah, I just wanted to note what Luke just said in the chat. What are the issues with OMML math? I thought it was largely good. I thought it was largely good as well. So the equation editor produces accessible mathematics. Some screen readers can't access it because the screen reader companies haven't built in the right thing to access it, but the maths is actually accessible.
Okay.
So if you use Narrator, for instance, it will be accessible. If you use some screen readers, and I can't remember which ones will and which ones won't, it will work. And if you use the inbuilt kind of read it aloud to me part of Word, then it will read the maths out correctly. So my impression was that there wasn't an issue with it as an accessible format. The question is whether the screen reader suppliers have done the work that they need to do.
That's really good information, Emma. But also in terms of how transformable it is, you know, that's the other thing, isn't it? The thing about Markdown and then MathML.
It's transformable via math type, which is a paid for product but isn't particularly expensive, so you can transform it that way. Yeah,
so we have math type licenses for that, which is the workflow that I think Cordelia's using some of that workflow right now. Jenny?
I was just going to say the other thing that we have with Word and equation editor in there, which some other people may be relevant to, is that it doesn't play nicely with Blackboard Ally. So if you put something into Ally, it will just download you it without any of the maths in it. It just totally skips over it in most of the alternative formats, which is frustrating. So again, it's a bit like Emma said, it in itself is accessible, but we have a statement that says, please advise your students that this will happen. So tell them to download the original, not the converted version.
From my point of view, this is a problem with Blackboard Ally, one which I raised with them a long time ago.
Same.
They know about the problem, they're choosing not to fix it.
And we shout into the void when talking to them, I feel.
Yes.
Yeah. And yet they're supporting the Wireless editor, so you'd think it wasn't that far away. It's like a cousin, isn't it? It's not like a,
I mean, they support that, but it doesn't work most of the time.
Yes, we found that as well.
A lot of my life is spent dealing with the fact that maths is not displaying properly in Blackboard.
Yeah, it's broken on our Learn Original at the moment, so we can't even type in math characters if we wanted to. Okay, So that's all really, really good. That I've already learned loads just like being in this space with you, Emma, and with everyone else that's contributed. It's been fabulous. So and the other thing about some of these maths editors as well is you have to be sighted to poke at the menu. And if you even need to screen magnify, it becomes a real problem. So the other aspect is, something like Markdown, which might be a way into type in your maths. That's one other aspect, isn't it? If you're not a mouse user, being able to create equations non-mouse. I know Iris says you can use your keyboard to move through their menus, but yeah.
But you can at least do it in Moodle, even if it isn't the most comprehensive equation editor. The editor itself is accessible.
Yeah, sorry, in Moodle?
Yes.
And what editor are they using? What's the kind of built-in or?
Well, silly enough, they built their own.
Oh, did they?
So just hands up, probably with more information than I have on it. Go on. Sorry.
Okay. Right. So lots of things that we might explore at later meetings. Konstantina?
So a bit relevant of this, but I think like students struggle because not all of them have tablets with like this kind of stylus. So we're having our own math support, and that was an issue for our students. Like when they logged in to talk with a tutor, they couldn't write things easily in the screen or in the whiteboard. And we've done a small research project on that. So that was an issue. And I think other people also came to this conclusion. So what are we doing with students that, like, we have technology, but students don't have access to this technology?
Yeah.
And I'm not very confident to use this as well. Actually. I think I'm very old-fashioned person.
No, I think it's a very valid point. I mean, I know lots of my lecturers were implementing more chalkboards and lecture capture because that's the way maths teachers enjoy teaching at the pace of writing. And I think that's a valid way of them expressing their teaching, but how we kind of create bridges where we can. And yes, that perspective of how students who might want to create digital maths, what's their way in to that as well.
I just wanted to say that the word equation editor is completely accessible in the sense that you can use it keyboard only or mouse only. It's just you need to find someone to teach you to use it keyboard only, because it's, as far as I can make out, not fully documented. And I spent a long time attempting to work out how to get all of the things that you can do keyboard only. So theoretically it's accessible. Luke's point about a mouse stick user and GUIs being inaccessible and the small buttons. Math type is better for that because you can make it very big. And there was also a zooming text input mechanism that I'm failing to remember the name of. It came out of a long-term project at Oxford University, if anyone can remember the name of it, which I have set up specifically to use as input to create LaTeX. I've also managed to get a specialist set up on a very, very adapted Dragon, which uses the ways that the coding community adapts for coding, computer coding in Dragon to write LaTeX. So there are very, very user-specific ways of solving this problem, and often you need someone who knows what the full possibility of all the research tools are out there, and I think that's the issue.
Yeah. So we're really, really at the bottom of a huge mountain, and all we can do is kind of creep forward one step at a time to try and capture as much as we can the knowledge of all of us who are here and everything that's out there within the UK community. And so I'm hoping the GitHub will build over time. Yeah. But for us not to feel too stressed about trying to do it all at once. So Constantina, do you have anything else to add now, or shall I move on? Okay, so I'm just going to run through quickly, but I think if anyone, oh yes, Newcastle has that EAMS conference. I had a link for that. Let me go find that link, unless Christian has it and can just pop the link. It's in June sometime, isn't it?
I'll put it in again in the chat.
Yeah, it's in June. There's a nice conference there.
Yeah, the deadline for session proposals is this Friday. It would be really nice to have a session on accessibility, even if it's just like a discussion. Just to set aside now, I think would be a good idea.
Okay, sorry, very quiet, Christian. But yeah, Christian just said it would be really nice to have a paper. Oh, thank you very much, Emma. I think you're going to be like, we're going to be mining you. We're going to tie you to a chair and mine you for information. But I hope you don't. I hope you feel like it's a good thing that all this research that you've been doing, you've got a whole new audience and people to work with you to get it all out there. I know you've been really good at getting it out there.
You can have it and sort it and put it out there in front of the world, because I don't have time to do that anymore. It's not my job to do this anymore.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, all of us in here, most of us would say it's not our job, but our interest has been piqued, and where that intersection of being either a maths person interested in accessibility, or for me, a learning technologist who's interested in accessibility, and that's this group, and that's fabulous. I think that we can come together and do this.
When I say it's not my job, I mean my actual job has taken over so much of my time that I have no time to do these extra things anymore.
Yes. We'll definitely kind of give new life to any of the resources that you've built up so far, and I think people will really, really appreciative of it. So I just wanted to mention an Ethan. Is Ethan the group that you're active in, Emma, or Ethan in the US?
I can't understand what you're saying, and the transcript is saying Ethan.
Ethan, like...
Yeah, I'm not active in it anymore. I stopped being active in it when I became a manager, basically.
Okay. Right.
I'm on all of those groups.
Yes.
And they pretty much get filed into a folder that I look at when I can, which now is never at the moment.
Okay. I hope you get a deputy soon. It's the same in our Math Skills Centre. We just lost our statistics person, so... But yeah, Luke and I attended their conference, and they've come back to me asking for some input on a white paper. So I'll have a first stab. My colleagues and I are going to have a first stab at it. But equally, if anyone else is interested in submitting, they say up to 4 pages. So they're not asking for a lot, but any insight from your perspective could go into this white paper. So I'll put a link to, or rather, if you don't mind, drop me an email if you're interested in putting forward something to contribute to this Ethan white paper, because that could be like a starting point of the state of the nation in higher education. And if there's enough papers from the UK, they might have a subsection that's a UK based. But then to have it kind of worldwide as well would be quite good, I think. Thank you very much, Anonymous Wolf, for typing in there. Okay. So any other updates? In the interest of time, it's 4 o'clock. In the interest of time, if people wouldn't mind updating the messy Google Doc with a sub bullet point with any other updates that you might have, that would be really, really helpful. And I'll turn them into a meeting story for us to remind us of what we're doing. UCL, quite exciting. Again, they're trying to work with Thomas Pocklington Trust to develop minimum standards for designing accessible STEM. So you see, all of us are doing very similar things with slightly different groups. It'd be really good to be able to pull these things together for people who are just getting started. And so thank you very much, everyone. I will forward and suggest the next meeting probably in 6 weeks. And in the meantime, those of us who are joining the drop-in clinic on the 1st of June, I'll coordinate with Kelly and Laura your names. But the link is something I can send you the link. The link is publicly available. And then once you join, they'll make you a speaker. Okay. So any last words? If not, we will sign off here. Okay. If not, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. It's been a really successful meeting all round.
Thank you, Lillian.
Have a good week.
Have a lovely week.
Bye.
Bye. Oh yes,
Bye all.
Dasha, Emma. Yes, Dasha. I love Dasha.
I've used it with a specialist latex